All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming for today's Tuesday Times Roundtable. Today's topic is going to be very interesting, and I'm very excited about the session for today on the power of artificial intelligence enabling or disabling mental health and well-being. My name is Janeri Mendoza, and I'm your Senior Program Coordinator here at the Office of Global Learning Initiatives. With us, we also have a staff from the Global Learning Office, our Program Manager, Michelle Saldivar, in the back. Here we go. We also have Gitanjali, one of our graduate assistants, and at the front entrance, you also met our Assistant Director, Connie Penchak. The Tuesday Time Roundtable, it is the Office of Global Learning Initiatives flagship discussion series that brings together multiple perspectives on global issues and trends. While we're fostering a conversation among the audience, we have faculty, staff, and also students here today. So it's going to be a meaningful conversation on the topics that we are discussing. All topics are aligned to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and you may learn more about TTR by visiting the website go.fiu.edu/TTR. If you didn't get a chance to sign in, just scan the QR code, and that will take you to the page where we're going to be collecting the attendance for today. Either you're here for Global Learning Medallion points, Honors College engagement points, extra credit from your professor, whatever brought you to us, we're just glad that you're here today. Also, as you engage through the conversation today, we ask you that you raise your hand. We are going to have microphones, so Michelle is going to be here in the back with a microphone, and also Gitanjali on the right-hand side of the room. And make sure that you wait for the mic so we can capture your contributions in our recording. Okay. Okay, so all the Tuesday Times Roundtables are connected to a New York Times article. All FIU faculty, staff, and students get access to a digital subscription for free. So if you haven't activated yours, you may click on accessnyt.com. And the article that it is connected with today's conversation, it is go.fiu/TTR 1001. Also, as a new addition to the TTRs, we are connecting them to the Sustainable Development Goals. So the Sustainable Development Goal that it connects to, it is number 3, good health and well-being. If you would like to learn more about the targets, the indicators, and the progress on the goal, you may go to go.fiu.edu/SDG. Global Learning Medallion students, just as a reminder, this is a one-point activity, so make sure you do a screenshot of your sign-in so that way you can upload it in your activities point. Also, you may also follow us in Instagram. This QR code is going to take us to our Instagram. And if you would like to learn more about global learning programs, including the Global Learning Medallion, Peace Corps Prep, the scholarships and fellowships that we have available for all students, you may visit the front desk that we have at the lobby area, and we'll be able to answer any questions that you may have. All right, so now it is my honor to introduce today's speaker, Isabel Alfonsin-Vittoria, Director of the Office of Employee Assistant here in our dear FIU. And in my opinion, one of the most positive and kindest person that I had the pleasure meeting at FIU. Thank you, Isabel, for everything you do for us. A little bit about Isabel. So Isabel was born and raised in Miami, Florida. She is also an alumni at FIU, earning both her undergraduate and graduate degrees in psychology. Isabel is a licensed psychotherapist and employee assistance administrator with over 30 years of diverse clinical programs management and experience. As director of the Office of Employee Assistance at FIU, Isabel oversees program operations and supervises all employee assistant clinical services. Her role includes confidential consultation and assessment, brief counseling, referral coordination, and follow-up. Additionally, she consults with faculty and staff and administrators on issues related to employees' health and well-being. She responds to crisis management issues, affecting individuals and the institution. She develops and conducts psychoeducational workshops and enhances faculty and staff quality of life, mindfulness, inclusive leadership, resilience, and work-life balance. And lastly, she's also the facilitator for the Panther Stripe Boot Club. So help me, everyone, welcoming Isabel to our TTR today.
Can everyone hear me? Very good. Thank you, Annette. This is a little bit far. Let's see if this is better. Thank you to the Office of Global Learning Initiatives for inviting me. I'm actually quite happy and honored to be here. It's nice to see a wide array of our FIU community and some colleagues that I've worked with prior, so it's a joy to see you here. I am not the typical person to be talking about this topic, which is why I said yes. Embracing what's different, what's new, uncertainty is, I think, something that I'm trying to leap into as we embrace the changes that are coming ahead in this world of AI. Let me see if I move around. Yes, it doesn't, to raise it up to the top so you can hear me better. Everyone can hear me all right? Let's see if the slides work. Perfect. Before we do that, how many of you have, honestly speaking, and generationally there is quite an array here, how many of you would say that you are comfortable with AI? Raise your hands if you are. How many of you would say, by raising both hands, that you're undecided? And how many of you would say that you're slightly intimidated, worried, or unsure? Okay. Hi. It's nice to see you. So it's an array, right? I think we all have different thoughts. Some with anticipation and openness, and some maybe with some hesitation and doubt about what this will do. Well, we all have to admit it's already amongst us, but in particular, what do we think is going to be the impact on what I've really devoted the greater part of my life, 3 decades plus, in protecting and ensuring is the well-being of other human beings. Here we're going to have a tool, because it is a tool, to come and advance the world. How is that going to affect us as human beings? So I thought that before we dove in, this might be a great way to start. It did not launch. See if it does it here. No. Maybe we need some technical help to get the video to launch. It's not launching. Back up. It's there, but it will not launch. My apologies with the delay, but I thought it was a great way to get you thinking. It should be enabled. If we enable, I think that's going to be the key. And again, my apologies. If not, we'll work without it. And I can still we can provide you with the link so that you can see it on your own time if we cannot successfully bring it up. But it was a real good thought provoker, this video that I brought you, which has us looking at, where we are in the 4th industrial, revolution.
Take it out of the PowerPoint.
That's what I think they're doing. They're going to try to take it out.
Did you embed this or did you link it?
I embedded it. And I think it wants to go.
Yep, I'm trying to see if I can.
Yeah, I tested it, but that happens sometimes.
tech will tech, and I think that's part of the point of today.
That is part of the point of today, and why you need 3 humans to be helping technology to be enabled. So if you'll just pardon the delay. It looks like it might play there.
Once upon a time, business as usual was often good enough. No more. Where we are going, good enough is dead. In a world where everything is connected, where everything is equally excellent, where performance is reaching perfection, there's only one space left to innovate in: you. Right now, you are a central point in the raging tornado of change fueled by digitization, mobilization, augmentation, disintermediation, automation. Well, the list goes on. Science fiction is becoming science fact. Think about self-driving cars or computers that can learn and think. The way we work will never be the same. The skills we need will be dramatically different. Winning or losing are now happening faster than ever before. So what's your response? How will you discover new opportunities in one of the most transformational times in human history? Are you driving change, or are you being driven by it? Disruption has become the new normal. With change, it's always gradually, then suddenly, well, things really have stopped happening gradually. This change is exponential. Everything that used to be dumb and disconnected is now wired and intelligent. Cars, cities, ports, farms, even our bodies will be wired with sensors and will talk to each other. These game changers are also combinatorial. They amplify each other, creating a perfect storm of change. Quantum computing fuels big data. The Internet of Things fuels artificial intelligence and deep learning, which fuels robotics. However, anything that cannot be digitized or automated will become extremely valuable. Human-only traits such as creativity, imagination, intuition, emotion, and ethics will be even more important in the future, because machines are very good at simulating, but not at being. Yes, robots and software will do some of our work, but this will allow us to focus on things that cannot be automated. To imagine change squared, you've got to start engaging more with what might be, not just with what is. Immerse yourself in the immediate future, 5 to 7 years out from today. We need to go beyond technology and data to reach human insights and wisdom. Technology represents the how of change, but humans represent the why. The future is about holistic business model. The opportunity is to be liquid, to learn just in time, not just in case, not single improvements, but complete transformations, not individual systems, but new ecosystems. Humanity is where true and lasting value is created. We will engage, relate, and buy things because of the experiences they provide, because of their transformative power. The future doesn't just happen. The future gets happened. The new way to work is to embrace technology, but not to become it. The future is in technology, yet the bigger future lies in transcending it. Let's live and lead from here.
I'll send that information out to you. I looked a lot online to see something that would appease me in my uncertainty, especially as it related to protecting humans, because I think that's the biggest concern, is what of all that is coming is going to replace human function. And if all of these machines and this information, this knowledge is smart and learning everything about me, what will I have left to control? And of all the things I saw, and I saw a lot because I did a lot of research, I thought this was the most balanced outlook. But let's put some of these things to the test, okay? So let's get started with the discussion. What is it that we actually know about AI? We hear a lot of things, but have we done digging enough to know more deeply what it is that we know about AI? Well, for one thing, I'm providing you with the definition. Generative AI refers to algorithms that can create new content, such as text, images, music, and videos based on patterns learned from existing data. So it can only create that from which has existed prior. Techniques. Common techniques include deep learning models like generative adversarial networks, GANs, and transformers, which are used in applications like text generation and image synthesis. We use this on a day-to-day basis. I'm sure you all use these types of techniques. They're embedded in some of the applications that we've become very used to. Applications. Generative AI is used in various fields, right, including the creation of content. How many of you create content all the time, right, for social media, for even your own personal or academic activities? And we rely on these applications. They help us to develop things, to develop games, virtual assistants, avatars, and things of that nature. There's also drug discovery, which is really interesting, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. There's some ethical concerns. This is something else that we're thinking about, like copyright infringement, right? If everything is out there, how do you protect what is yours from what anybody else can take? And, of course, the reality that there are deep fakes, which raise some ethical questions, and, you know, who's responsible for generative AI? You see things, and my hope is that you become discerning and that you can tell, or you can dig deeper to find out if what you're seeing is actually real or misinformation. And also human-AI collaboration. We know that generative AI is increasingly being used as a tool to augment, and that's important, not replace, but augment human creativity rather than replace it, enabling new forms of collaboration. So this is what we know. So let's talk about the current landscape and some of the implications, right? Some of you who raised your hands who were unsure or actually concerned, these are some of the things that you might be actually contributing to those thoughts. For one, the fact that there's personalization. It can also create personalized experiences and marketing content and customized learning materials. So there's a lot to think about when you see material coming at you, the source. The fact that there are also some limitations, right? We know that it can include bias in training data. There's quality control issues and the need for substantial computational resources. Not everyone has the resources to use this level of AI. Accessibility is an issue. Of course, future trends. What are we going to do? How are we going to manage ongoing advancements, right? That can lead to even more sophisticated models. How can we become more efficient with it? And how can we apply on a more broad level all of these abilities across different sectors and industries? A big concern that I've already been hearing, especially as it relates to mental health and well-being, is regulation. Discussions about how we're going to manage content with generative AI and being concerned about confidentiality and privacy. So that's a big concern. Who's in charge of it? In brief, I'm going to put it to you in 3 buckets. This came out of the Harvard Business Review just right now, the fall 2024. Let me go back here so we can be more thoughtful. So this is a summary from the latest HBR. As they call it, the problem. Generative AI has the potential to disrupt or commoditize businesses whose offerings previously required significant human labor and creativity. So basically, these things are doing what humans used to do and was costly, and they can maybe do it faster and cheaper. So to compete, many organizations, including educational institutions, are having to rethink our strategies. That's basically the problem. If you look at it through this lens, it's considered a threat, right? Anything that can replace you, anything that can be done faster and cheaper is something that can be perceived as a threat. We heard in the video that disruption has become the norm. Generationally speaking, being a Gen X, I can tell you that just the shift between the boomers and my generation, that felt huge. I have one millennial adult child in the family, and significant difference between what I experienced and what she experienced. And I have a Gen Z, and a significant difference between what she experienced and he experiences. The leaps are getting bigger and faster. You could be, amazed and impressed, and you can also be perhaps a little bit worried about that speed. Everything much faster, disruption is now the norm. There was a time when disruption meant a shift in the norm, and now that's the norm. So the next bucket, going in the wrong direction. The table stakes. This is, again, a summary of the HBR magazine. Some will be able to gain an edge by leveraging widely available tools better or faster than their competitors, so that's the advantage. But that advantage will only be temporary, and using the tools will soon become table stakes, because then somebody else will beat you to that, and then somebody else will beat them to that. So where does it stop? Does it stop? And then, in conclusion, again, trying to be brief here, turning AI from the existential threat that we see it as to an opportunity involving generative AI at increasingly sophisticated levels that yield a stronger and more sustainable competitive advantage. If you go really fast consistently, at some point, you're going to have to come to a pause, or you're going to crash. How do we get to sophisticated levels? How do you even get people to all want to do it the same way? It's a big challenge. So, being that my area of specialty is the human experience, I wanted to bring you a list of what, in the research that I did, I found to be the greatest individual and societal mental health concerns. The other concerns you heard are at many different levels, but this is individual and social. So the first one, concern for misinformation and anxiety. The potential for AI-generated misinformation, can lead us to feel anxious and worried or confused about what's real and what's not, and it can impact your mental well-being. Social isolation. You wonder, we're so hyper-connected to devices, and we're progressively becoming disconnected from human-to-human contact, more so in the Gen Z generation than even millennials. So the increased reliance on AI for companionship or interaction might exacerbate feelings of loneliness and isolations in individuals. Did any of you see the movie Her? All right, for those of you that did, a little scary? You create a relationship with a person that isn't real. Yeah, you should look it up. I forget the name of the actor. Was it River Phoenix? Joaquin Phoenix, had the wrong Phoenix. Yeah, the movie Her with Scarlett Johansson is playing the voice of her. It'll make you think. Obviously we know that there are avatars out there that sometimes we befriend and we create relationships with. So it's that idea. Comparison and self-esteem. How are those affected? AI-generated content, particularly in social media, can create unrealistic standards, leading to negative self-image and low self-esteem. I won't go too deep on that, but I have a feeling that in this room, about 1 in 5 of us has experienced that discomfort when you're looking at content and checking yourself out in relation to that content, and whether that affects your mood or your self-esteem. There's also the concern for addiction and overuse. Engaging with generative AI tools and platforms can lead to compulsive usage patterns, affecting mental health and daily functioning. I find myself sometimes unaware of how long I might take after I just click on one thing and where that will take me. Any one of you go through those rabbit holes and then you realize you've lost 5 minutes, right? Yeah, I think it can happen. There's a release of dopamine every time we hit something and we experience some pleasure. We just keep going and we keep digging, and the next thing we know, we've lost track of time, maybe even purpose. There's also some job displacement anxiety. Fears about job loss due to automation can cause stress, anxiety, and uncertainty about the future. I think of all of you here planning your life and getting an education and wondering what you're going to anchor yourself in, what's going to be your goal, your plan, what are you going to do quote unquote, when you grow up. And then thinking that whatever you're working toward by the time you finish might be done differently. There are already jobs that do not exist anymore, even in my time. I remember the first threat, existential threat, that I perceived was the first time, and some of us here are too young to know, but there might be some here that remember when you saw the first ATM, and people didn't even know what ATM stood for. Do you know what it stands for? Automated teller machine. Well, you know how many tellers were gone from banks because of ATM machines? And the same thing with tolls. Maybe you're too young to remember, but most highways had people who took your tolls. All those jobs went away when we got SunPass. So again, little ways in which our lives were impacted, and you don't see it, but then suddenly your job is gone. There's also some creativity pressure for those of you in the creative space. The things that were really difficult to do that only a person could do, there's machines doing it, maybe faster and cheaper and more portable than even your work. So artists and creators are feeling particularly threatened to compete with that environment, and some artists are finding themselves burn out from trying to beat these products. There's also content sensitivity. Generative AI can actually produce harmful or triggering content unintentionally, but yet impacting vulnerable adults, vulnerable individuals who are in contact with the material. You wonder also parenting controls. What do children have access to? What are they creating? What are they seeing? Lack of human connection, that goes a little bit back to the social isolation piece. This is an over-reliance on AI for support. It can actually diminish human interactions, which we crucially need for human mental health and well-being. In fact, social connection is the #1 determining factor for how long you will live and how healthy you will be in your life. Without it, you will live less, you will get sicker, and you will die faster. So make a huge investment in staying meaningfully connected to people. And by meaningfully, that means more person-to-person interactions and less interactions that are digital, which I know is contrary to the way that we're living. And last but not least, some of these ethical dilemmas are also affecting our mental health. Just navigating the ethical implications, the decisions that need to be made, can lead to moral distress. Is this the right thing to do? Is this not the right thing to do? And it may affect your need for mental health support. So I like to be balanced, and this is me battling with my own insecurities about all of this. So I thought, it can't all be bad, Isabel. Look for information that might have you see the value of AI. So I wanted to talk to you about, some health and well-being advancements that AI has brought about. Well, for one, and I've seen this personally in my family, I spent a good 10 years of my life working in mental health within medicine. We now have AI that can analyze genetic information on patient data, and it can tailor treatment specifically to individuals, improving outcomes. In fact, we had that discovery right here at our Stempel College of Public Health and Social Work. We had one of our researchers put this to the test and find ways to get children that were receiving treatment at Nicholas Children's Hospital for cancer, and by using this type of AI information, and not waiting to give patients the medicine to see if it worked, but actually testing data before through AI to see what would work, and then tailoring the medication accordingly and giving those children better and faster recovery times. I find that to be impressive. If we do that the old-fashioned way, children could die, right? Patients could die waiting for the right solution. AI has also helped us to have earlier diagnoses, because we have equipment that can actually detect diseases like cancer, as I was saying before, or diabetes earlier than some of the traditional methods. Again, it's about timely detection and timely intervention, which through human eyes cannot be as fast. One doctor can only track so many patients. These algorithms can track patients across the globe at the same time. Telehealth. One thing that I was slightly against in my earlier years, not wanting to provide psychotherapy by phone or video because I thought it could compromise the quality of the interaction. There was a time when, we were actually debating, should we ever do that? Is there a risk in doing that? And guess what? COVID came, and we realized that people were dying without medical treatment or mental health. And we started seeing patients through virtual platforms. So that was enabled by these technologies. So again, we can have remote consultations, we can see our patients faster and help them not to suffer, especially for patients that live in rural areas where providers are nowhere to be found. Accessibility, so patients that maybe sometimes had transportation issues, mobility issues, financial hardship can click and see a provider instantly. And of course, mental health support. And we have these features, if any of you are familiar with our CAPS office, our Counseling and Psychological Services office here on campus. They have a number of features in addition to seeing counselors one-on-one, where you can have conversations with a chat box. Chatbots are there, and they have other platforms that you can interact with to receive mental health support in addition to seeing somebody live. So there's really good things that are also underway. We're seeing better health outcomes because of it. We also have the ability to have predictive analytics. So again, you can forecast trends when you can see global data, right? Global, that's why we're here, not just seeing local, not just seeing national or regional, but actually seeing global data. It can help public health officials respond effectively. That's actually how we eventually came up with the vaccine for COVID. People sharing information at a global level. Drug discovery, of course, that is one of the ways that we came across, in particular with COVID, how we discovered some of the vaccines. Again, working together, looking at the predictive data, and coming up with solutions. How many or any of you have had a surgery performed by a robot? I'm raising my hand because I have. All right, so not that many. It's a thing. And high accuracy, greater accessibility. Sometimes doctors have very long waits. That doesn't mean the doctor's not in the surgical unit, but much more focus, much more enhanced, much more precise, faster recovery times, fewer complications, less infections. So, you have to really see it in a balanced way. Wearable health tech, if you're all wearing or have any kind of device like an iWatch or any device like it, then you're already wearing information that is tracking your health. Now our phones can take our blood pressure, our heart rate, and things of that nature. So there are things that artificial intelligence has done to enable better outcomes. So I wanted to give you, trying to be mindful of time, 3 key updates on AI in mental health. Important, significantly important. Again, because I think for most individuals in my sector, we have been more on the guarded side and have been concerned about the potential violation of privacy, individuals, again, getting dependent on machines that are not people. So I really dug deep to come up with things that are significantly better for AI, and these are 3 of them. The World Health Organization, the WHO, it's also known as the WHO, wrote a report that highlights AI's potential and challenges in revolutionizing mental health research and services. The World Health Organization is an agency that, is respected, did not go without controversy during COVID, but still recognized as a leader of information that we can trust about the state of health. And so I'm just going to give you a little bit of a summary about what the report says. Their report praises the fact that AI can quickly gather and analyze various forms of digitized healthcare data, including electronic health records and medical images. It automates tasks, assists clinicians, and improves understanding of complex disorders. However, the study also identified significant challenges, including the over-accelerated use of AI applications in mental health research. So there's still some some hesitation. The organization expressed a desire for greater focus on resolving substantial, like I mentioned to you, privacy concerns, methodological flaws, poor data validation, and a lack of transparency to improve results, replicability, and maintain public trust. Those are key issues around health. You have to trust the information that you're getting. They also call for the focus to expand beyond conditions like depression, anxiety, and schizophrenia to cover a more diverse array of diagnoses. So it's a balanced report. It sees a lot of good things, but it's still questioning things that should be questioned. Validity. How much confidence do you have in what you're seeing? Just because you see it faster, is it better? So more to come on that. The next key update is from the World Economic Forum. Again, a global entity that is looking at the state of the economy across the world, somewhat respected to guide us, to be like a compass of what would be a constructive way to run our economy. And they say they created a toolkit. And this toolkit emphasizes the need for ethical, safe, and effective use of AI in mental health care. So I was really grateful to see that because those are actually my concerns. This is what the toolkit includes. It aims to improve the accessibility, quality, and safety of mental health services, guide strategic investment decisions, and develop standards for the ethical implementation of digital mental health services. It also targets a diverse audience, aiming to adopt services that provide scalable, effective, and affordable mental health solutions. As a therapist, I couldn't be happier because those are the things that I really want to see happen. People need to feel that they can trust that they're getting the best possible help for their mental health and well-being. And then the last update that I have is an entity known as Limbic AI, Limbic, like the limbic system in your brain. This is called the Limbic AI chatbot. And they conducted a preprint study which shows a significant increase in mental health service referrals benefiting minority groups. Again, there are areas of our population that have access to mental health care and well-being services, and we also have populations that are marginalized or that have social disparity, and they do not have access to help. Limbic is trying to change that. So a little bit more detail. Limbic is a conversational AI chatbot which assists people in accessing mental health support. It's the first real-world, large-scale data to evaluate on AI tools as they impact mental health care access and quality. I find it impressive and promising. Again, you can't afford a life without a high quality of mental health. So these are three great updates. The sources are all in the slides. I'm not sure if you're going to be provided them, but chances are you will, so you can dive deeply into everything I'm sharing with you. If you're curious and interested, which I encourage you to be, question everything. Think, rethink, learn, unlearn until you get to the bottom of things, and even then, keep looking. Some of you will be too young to remember this, so I'm going to walk you a little bit to the past. But the last time that we were as concerned, I think as a society as we are today about AI, was about the World Wide Web. It wasn't always around. There was a time when we did things the old-fashioned way. I was an alum here when I was 17, and I still remember going to that library, which was only 2 stories, and having to go through microfiche and going to the little reference desk and pulling out the little cards and walking all over the library looking for something. We don't need to do that anymore. But there was a time that was the case. And so back then, when the World Wide Web launched, there were all kinds of misgivings. What is this, right? Big Brother. So these are some of the things we were afraid of back then. Privacy. So we've been concerned about privacy for a long time. People were worried about personal information being shared or misused, leading to potential breaches of privacy. People were concerned about security, concerns about hacking, viruses, and other cyber threats. They were prevalent then, and guess what? They're still prevalent now, right? I saw the hackathon last week. I was so excited to see our students going in there and trying to learn the right ways to hack into things. We were concerned about misinformation back then, just as we are now. Concerns about false information that could spread quickly and widely, and it could raise alarms about trustworthiness or credibility. It's frightening if what you're seeing in front of you, you don't trust. You don't know if it's real or not. So misinformation was scary back then too. We didn't have the now many decades to look back and go, for the most part, things turned out okay. Addiction was a concern then, as it is now, before we even knew about how we would be wired to get hooked on information on the web. Back then, they feared that excessive use of the internet could lead to addiction and negatively impact social interactions and mental health. We still have that concern. There was a digital divide. There were worries about unequal access to the internet, which, by the way, for a long period of time was the case. Only people that could access the World Wide Web had access to it. And so that's one of the reasons that I came to a public university. It was affordable. I was a first gen before that had a name, and everything was hard. So I needed to come to a place where I could have access to things. And I think to this day that still is a main reason for a lot of people come to FIU. So that was a worry then. We also had a concern about impact on relationships. Concerns arose about how online communication might affect face-to-face relationships and social skills. Guess what? We still feel that way. But we're still doing it, right? How many people are on the web every day? We're on the web every day, every day. Content regulation was also a thing back then. People debated how to manage inappropriate or harmful content online, especially regarding children and vulnerable populations. So a concern that I think even to this day we have. These concerns have probably evolved over time, and maybe if you were too young to know that we had them, but we were really worried back then. We just didn't understand where that information was coming from. Then we learned about the cloud, and many of us are still looking for it because we don't know where it is. But it was big and scary. And today, some of them still resonate as the internet continues to shape society. So what now? You might say, well, you've given us all the good and all the bad. What do we do with it? So as a therapist, I always try to give you a tool or a suggestion for what you might want to do with the bipolarity of all the good and all the maybe still questionable. So my recommendation is developing a digital mindset. What does that sound like? Well, learning new technological skills is essential. We cannot ignore it in order for us to be able to continue to undergo a digital transformation, which is what we're living through. But it isn't enough. So just actually knowing about it and using it is not enough. We have to find a way to motivate ourselves to grow our skills in that capacity, to look for these new opportunities. So we need to have what I'm calling a digital mindset, a set of attitudes and behaviors that enable people and organizations to see how data, algorithms, and AI open up new possibilities, and to chart a path for success in hopefully an increasingly technology-intensive world. So we are living in an age of digital transformation that cannot be ignored. And so there are two dimensions that combine to produce the four quadrants of a matrix of responses. I'm going to bring up the matrix. And they include four different ways that you could feel about this. We call this the adoption matrix. I'm going to source this. Four different possible ways that you can react to this opportunity. Frustrated, inspired, oppressed, or indifferent. All right, so the more information you have in relation to how you respond is going to place you on the different quadrants. So however more confident you are about using it and however much more you know about it, you're going to land on any of these four blocks: frustrated, inspired, oppressed, or indifferent. Again, the source. I recommend, if this is an area that you're curious in, and we might even have this book right here at the Green Library, that you check out this book, The Digital Mindset: What It Really Takes to Thrive in the Age of Data, Algorithms, and AI by Leonardi and Neely. I think that when we are uncertain, when we have questions and we have doubts, we should dig deep and not stay in the unknowing. This is a good book that takes you down the course of developing the right attitudes to cultivate a good mindset to embrace what is coming. It's not going to go away because you're not ready. It's not going to go away because you're scared. It's not going to go away because you don't know how to use it. It's going to continue developing. So can you develop a mindset that helps you to be successful in that reality? So the question that I have for you all, and there's some mics out there, whoever would like to, because I'm sort of done talking, I want to start hearing from you. Where do you see yourself? Remember the 4 quadrants? I'm going to bring them back up. Frustrated, inspired, oppressed, or indifferent. Where do you see yourself? I would love to hear. Who would like to share where they see themselves, given what you now know? Here in the front. Hello.
Hi. I would say that I consider myself to be in the inspired category. However, I do just have a bit of reservations regarding the creativity and all of that with AI. I used to be an English major before I switched over, so that really concerns me, how AI can take over jobs with writing and all of that.
What's your name?
Bree.
Bree, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
It's a reasonable concern when things are being generated faster. But remember, and they're telling us now, even since I put this together, that there are some AI tools that are trying to feel. They're trying to emote, actually, like we humans. But they can't yet. And you can still write a compelling piece that can only come from the heart. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Who else would like to say where you feel you're at? And by the way, sometimes it's not as simple as falling in one of the quadrants. You could also be toggling between 2. Anyone else who would like to share? Here we have in the front someone that would like to share. Hi, please say your name and where you put yourself.
I'm Christian, and I'd say I'm indifferent. It's kind of the thing. I do recognize the opportunities, but I also realize the amount of, not that harm that it's doing, but like negative stuff. Of course, like the main thing for me is that like how much, again, like you said you were worried about how much it was generating. For me, it's the same thing, but I realize that that's creating a lot of low quality stuff that's really like flooding things. You'll see on Facebook or anything like that, tons of low quality artwork, images, stuff like that. I'm kind of creative myself, and I'm not really worried about it because I can also realize that it is about the emotion and intent that goes into it. Like I've heard that like we realized what soul looks like in art because with AI art we see what art looks like without soul.
That's a beautiful perspective to share, Christian. Thank you so much. I could think already of an artist in my life who would love to hear your words. Because truly, although we are not what we do, a lot of what we do comes from us. And when that's threatened by a non-being, we have to have a certain feeling about it. But I will agree with you. In fact, I was talking to some really, really cool tech guys from Canada that are in this AI space, and they were telling me to be more discerning, to look, and that you can actually find the flaws if you just spend a few seconds looking at a piece and realize that there's errors. Even when you give messages, if you've played with any of those tools, and I've started to play with them just to actually challenge that, I realize that it can only do what it can do. But I'm more discerning, and I can tell when something is not right? So I appreciate your indifference. I think some of that is also a little bit of rebellion, which you're not gonna be better than me, right? I'm still a human being, and I could do it better than you. Way to go, Christian. Anybody else? We have another person up here up front. Please let us know your name and where you stand in this quadrant.
Hi, my name is Gene.
Hi, Gene.
I think I find myself to be more so in the frustrated category.
Okay.
Because at least the way I've seen it is that we're currently at, like if this increase in AI and usage is an exponential curve, I believe we're finally starting to reach a point where it is growing exponentially.
Yeah.
And because of that, I feel like being able to use it well is also getting exponentially harder because it's evolving at a pace where it almost transcends our ability to get better and better.
Wow. Frustration. Well, remember when you heard it also in the piece that I brought you in the video, where the acceleration factor, right? You can only go so fast. If it's going faster than you, How hard do you have to work to stay with it or to surpass it? What do you do if it surpasses you? Vigilance. And again, there's still some things that I think are in the process, and that's where I think engineering is really interesting to me, is how do you put things out there that are detecting that? Like, what's going to police it, right? And how do we stay relevant when things might be going way faster than a human being can go? Thank you for sharing that, Jean. We've had 3 different quadrants. We've had frustrated, indifferent, and inspired. Is anyone feeling any different? Anyone in the oppressed box? All right, in the front. Perfect. We'd love to hear from you. What's your name?
Hello, my name is Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
I won't say in general that I'm oppressed, but I'm just as a person.
Yeah.
But, as a society, we've already seen, like with the Edward Snowden leaks, that the government can use technology against the public to surveil them. So the use of AI in mass surveillance is very concerning to me. Specifically as Oracle, I think they have like a $460 billion market cap. They've recently said that they're switching their focus as a business to providing AI law enforcement tools. So I was curious if you could say anything about that.
First of all, Kevin, thank you for bringing up a topic that I think is challenging for all of us, which is, national security, feeling safe where you live. I don't have an opinion about this. I'm just going to put it out there. Or rather, I have an opinion, but this is not a personal discussion, right? We'd all like to think that we can trust our governance. We'd all like to think that we can trust what we hear. And we'd all like to think that we have the ability to live a free life in a free world where every move is not being followed or every conversation that you have is not being heard. And it's a very scary thought, I think, what you're bringing up, which is the concerns that I mentioned, right? Privacy, security, confidentiality, that here we have these tools that are definitely enabling some amazing, some cool things, and some things we need. Like in the medical realm, that's where I'm most impressed, the lives that it can save. That gives me the inspiration. I find myself in the box on those things, but I can find myself in the other box of concern. How do I know? How will I know? Will I know? And do I have any agency over stopping what's happening around me? It's a difficult place to be. That's why when I suggest that it's not a one-shot solution, developing a digital mindset, is trying to sort of toggle this polar opposite, that there's hope in this, but there's still also threat. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's the least desirable and the one that we probably don't even want to admit. But I know that there are things I now take pause and I look at and I question. I really do. Just to, is this valid? Is this true? There's a lot of, trying to be thoughtful on time. People are having a lot of fun now with the upcoming elections. And I don't find it funny. There's a lot at risk for how things go. Again, this is not a political discussion, but this can be a concern with whatever outcome there is. Is the outcome real? Is the outcome, has that been manipulated in any way? You used to think that those things would happen in other nations, but we saw what happened January 6th. And makes you think. It really makes you think. It makes you take pause. We covered all the quadrants. Does anybody else want to share where you're at? So I have another question coming up. So if you don't, I'm going to ask you a different one. Thank you. Thank you for everybody that shared. Oh, you have another one. Hey.
Well, never mind. Not a question.
You sure? Comment? Concern? Observation?
Oh, okay, words. Then I'll
anything you wish. It's a free world.
I think that something that AI has brought about, you talked about our concern for generative AI has brought about our concern for authenticity.
Yes.
What can be replicated? I think there's two really big things that I've used to analyze all these things. The first is, how many of these fears has Gen AI just exacerbated as a reality that have always been there? We talk about how we were being, our privacy. These were issues we were already dealing with. We talk about bias.
Yeah.
When we look at hiring
It's always been there.
It's always been there. And so now this thing that makes us feel or look like it's human is showing us some really uncomfortable realities. And so now it's asking us to do something that we haven't had to do, which is define the value of human. And so when you were talking before about we are not what we do, you know, and we're talking about our creatives, like you see a soul in artwork or in writing. ChatGPT in particular is writing better than I can, right? Like it is writing for some of us better than we've been able to and pull resources. And so I think if we keep on playing the game of like, oh, ChatGPT is bad at limericks, it gets better at that in 2 weeks. ChatGPT can't do this. It gets better at that in 6 months. It can't draw hands. It can do that in a year. It becomes a losing game. And what we have to do eventually is say, the value of human creativity, of human work, is that a human did it. And that's enough. Not that it's better, not that it's more inspiring, not that it's unique, not that it's not Gen AI, not that it's not as good or I can see something.
No, it's not about comparing.
That it is human. And what I'm hoping is that, I'm in the inspired category, what I'm hoping is that Gen AI forces us all to like get to this wonderful kumbaya moment where we're like, you know what? Being a human at this moment right now is
valuable.
Yeah, and that's enough. And so now humans are valuable. Maybe we can.
That's an interesting perspective. You flipped it. And I love that perspective. Instead of looking at it as something that I need to race after or something that I need to surpass, maybe at one point there's going to be something, you know, when you see a trademark and you see something registered or copyrighted, that there'd be something that was an H and had a circle around it that says human, right? So some pride in an authentic product that came from a human being, that could then now become more worthy than it probably ever was in a day and age when there are so many things that are artificial that are competing with us. Beautiful outlook. I love it. Sounds like you read Digital Mindset before I even talked about it, because that's what that is finding a way to rethink it. So many of you shared, and I want to thank every one of you that took the risk to share how you felt. This is a different question that we have. How long? 2 minutes, but a good 2 minutes. We could maybe hear from one or two of you. What role do you want to have in this revolution? What role do you want to have? Because one of the things I'll tell you is you can have no role, but if you're passive, someone else is going to be active. And sometimes we think, I'm too small. I'm just one. No, you're one. And one human is powerful. So if you decided that you wanted to have a role, what would it be? A role that you either have already. You might say, well, guess what? I'm already doing something. Who's doing something already? Or what would you like to do, if you could, to impact this revolution? You had a say in it. Yes, we have someone in the back. Hi, what's your name?
My name is Angelica.
Hi, Angelica.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Same.
And a role that I want to have, and it's what my degree is aspiring to, is I want to pursue those ethical uses of AI.
Okay.
Because I see how, as an artist myself, I see how AI can be threatening and like how it can be bad. Like my friends, we talk a lot about it, how AI is like taking artists' jobs, and how companies don't really want to hire artists to do what a computer can do in like 5 seconds. But I also see, like what you mentioned, how it can help to find more medicines, to detect cancer earlier. I saw this image while I was doom scrolling on Instagram that an AI actually captured developing breast cancer cells 5 years before it even happened. So AI can do so much good, but it's just a matter of how you ethically use it. And I want a future world where I can push those good ethical uses of AI, while also, informing people about yes, AI can also be this great thing in the future. You don't have to be afraid of it. And like Professor Wright said, you don't have to go above and pursue it, like be like race against it. You have to be like the turtle in the hair, like in that story. You have to go slowly, work with it
methodically,
and you don't have to win against it. You have to work with it, and that way we can build a better future alongside technology.
Oh, Angelica, you put that so beautifully. You really did, right? Didn't she? That was amazing. You inspired me. I'm going to stay in the inspired box, knowing that there's somebody out there with a conscience, which, by the way, Gen AI cannot have, to make those tough decisions. You know, in my field, everything comes down to ethics and protecting the human being that has entrusted me in their journey, and I will never let that be compromised. In medicine, that is a huge thing. Every decision that we make is deliberated by ethics. And I think we probably would all feel much better, right, if there were some guidelines and some principles that we could work with that could allow us to use this amazing ability in a responsible way. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. We didn't have time for more, but I would leave you with this quote. As a matter of fact, this is the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. I also wanted to leave you with something, maybe not as uplifting as Angelica, because she definitely did it better than Klaus Schwab. In the end, it comes down to people and values. We need to shape a future that works for all of us by putting people first and empowering them. In its most pessimistic, dehumanized form, the fourth industrial revolution may indeed have the potential to robotize humanity and thus to deprive us of our heart and soul. But as a complement to the best part of human nature, creativity, empathy, stewardship, ethical stewardship, Angelica, it can also lift humanity into a new collective and moral consciousness based on a shared sense of destiny. It is incumbent on us all to make sure the latter prevails. I hope you found this interesting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isabel, for such a wonderful conversation today. I hope it was inspiring for all of you. And as we continue navigating the AI world, this was definitely a session that I was looking forward to it. And I'm so glad that we have such a great audience today, and also an engagement conversation as well from all of you. We invite you to come back again next week. We're going to have another conversation, but this time around it's going to be about Peace Corps, a global mission for human connection. You may find more information in our website as well, but thank you so much for your time, and we truly appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.